Mr. Lewandowski, I'm going to put a slide up, and it's the words that President Trump dictated to you on July 19. Can you read what you wrote down?
I'm happy to have you read it, Congressman.
Well, why don't you want to read it, Mr. Lewandowski?
I think you should afford me the same privilege you afforded Director Muller.
Would you like to read it?
No, you're welcome to read it.
Are you ashamed of the words that you wrote down?
President Swalwell, I'm very happy of what I've written, but you're welcome to read it if you'd like.
Are you ashamed to read it out loud?
I'm not ashamed of anything in my life, Congressman, are you?
Then why don't you read the words?
Congressman, I've asked and answered your
Mr.
question.
Lewandowski, why won't you read the words aloud?
I've asked and answered your question, Congressman. If you'd like to read the words, you're welcome to.
Well, you were ashamed to read them out loud, and you didn't deliver those words to the person the president asked you to. Did you have a consciousness of guilt?
I have nothing to be guilty of, Congressman, thank
You
you.
still feel guilty today, and that's why you can't read it out loud?
Congressman, you're welcome to read the words if you'd like.
Well, I just wonder why you can't.
I have the capacity to, Congressman. I'll give you the privilege.
You said the president did nothing wrong. Why can't you read those words right now? Why can't you read them aloud?
Congressman, tell me why you hold me to a different standard than previous witnesses who sat here.
I want to give you one more opportunity to clear up something you said earlier. You said a number of times it was in the Mueller report, it was accurate, except as it relates to you stating that this was the only time the president ever asked you to write something down. Are you saying that that part's not accurate? I'd ask to stop the clock while he confers with his lawyer.
Clock will be stopped for 5 seconds.
Could I see the page and reference number on that, Congressman?
Sure, it's page 91, lines 7 and 8. I will read it to you. This was the first time the president had asked Lewandowski to take dictation. Are you saying that that is not accurate?
I'm saying those aren't my words, Congressman.
I'm asking you, was that the first time the president asked you to take dictation?
And I've testified it's not the first time.
So this part would be inaccurate.
I'm saying I've taken dictation by the candidate and the president in the past.
Have you ever put any words that the president asked you to write down before in a safe? Or was this the first time you'd done that?
I believe it's my standard operating procedure when taking notes, Congressman.
So every note that you take of the president, you put in a safe? How big is that safe?
It's a big safe, Congressman. There's a lot of guns in there.
Is this the first time you've ever put a secret message from the president that he wanted you to deliver to someone else in the safe?
I don't believe there's anything secret about the message. I was never told to keep the message secret.
Is this the first time you ever put a message that the president asked you to deliver to someone else in the safe?
Not to the best of my recollection.
I want to go back to that day. Later, after the president asked you to deliver this message, he was interviewed by the New York Times. And the next slide shows that he said, Sessions should have never recused himself. And if he was going to recuse himself, he should have told me before he took the job. I would have picked someone else. That's not what the president said to you during that meeting, one-on-one in the Oval Office. Is that right?
The White House has directed that I not disclose the substance of any discussions with the president or his advisors.
Mr.
Protect executive branch
Mr. Chairman,
confidentiality.
I'd like to stop the clock for a parliamentary inquiry.
Gentleman will state his parliamentary inquiry.
I would like to, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request a ruling on the witness's refusal to answer.
Mr. Lewandowski, when you refuse to answer these questions, you are obstructing the work of our committee. You are also proving our point for the American people to see. The President is intent on obstructing our legitimate oversight. You are aiding him in that obstruction. And I will remind you that Article 3 of the impeachment against President Nixon was based on obstruction of Congress. You are instructed to answer the question. The clock will start again.
Mr. Chairman, parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman will state his parliamentary inquiry.
Is it correct, and I can repeat, or you can let me see your little sheet there, that reference you made to Nixon was after a formal inquiry was put to the House and then brought back to the Judiciary Committee? Your statement's a little bit different than this. Just wanted to point out truth for the record. I
have a parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
First of all, that was not a parliamentary inquiry. He didn't even ask anything. But who seeks? The gentleman will state his parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Chairman, did you just threaten to impeach Mr. Lewandowski, private citizen?
No. The plain import of what I said was that he is violating the law by refusing to answer these questions. The President is violating the law by instructing him and others not to answer these questions. And Article 3 of the Nixon impeachment was based on this kind of obstruction of Congress by President Nixon.
One further inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman will state his parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So does that mean then, pursuant to your statement, that this is an official impeachment that we're in?
I have stated repeatedly that this committee is, and we amended our rules to empower the chairman to designate specific hearings, which I did for this hearing, is pursuant to finding out, to determining whether we should vote articles of impeachment against the president. That's exactly what this is.
Thank you.
The gentleman from California will continue.
Mr. Lewandowski, I'll ask you again. What's displayed on the slide is not what the president told you in that one-on-one meeting. Is that correct? Are you refusing to answer, Mr. Lewandowski?
No, Congressman, as I've explained in a letter from the White House dated September 16, 2019, to my attorney,
Mr. Lewandowski, that
Mr.
letter
Lewandowski's
is
conversation with the
answer.
president
So,
and with senior advisors to the president protected from
we stop the
disclosure.
clock again for this obstructive behavior.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, and I'd ask the clock be stopped.
Clock will be stopped and the
Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that this...
gentleman, gentleman will state his point of order.
My point of order is, Mr. Chairman, this witness continues to obstruct the work of this committee by refusing to answer questions. He's been ordered to do so by you. I ask that you would judge him in contempt in these proceedings.
Point of order, that's not a proper parliamentary inquiry.
It was a point of order, it wasn't a parliamentary inquiry.
Excuse me. I will take that under advisement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman will continue.
Are you refusing to answer, yes or no? I don't need you to
Congressman, I'm happy to answer your question, so let me have the privilege to do so. As explained below, Mr. Lewandowski's conversations with the president and with senior advisors to the president are protected from disclosure by long-settled principles
again,
protecting
Mr. Lewandowski,
executive
that's
branch
not an answer.
confidentiality.
Mr.
Interests
Chairman,
as a result,
that's not
the
an
White
answer.
House is directing Mr. Lewandowski not to provide information about such communications
I would
beyond
ask-
the information provided in the portions of the
Stop.
report that have already been disclosed to the committee.
The gentleman has the time, not the witness.
And Mr. Lewandowski, I'm just asking, if you're not going to answer, just say it's a refusal to answer. We don't need to be read the instructions from the White House. So I'm going to move on. In that New York Times interview, hours after the president spoke to you, he never said, in fact, I just enlisted Mr. Lewandowski to deliver a secret message to the Attorney General for him to direct the special counsel to limit the investigation. He said to you something that he did not say just hours publicly. Is that right?
I have no idea what he said to the New York Times.
Mr. Lewandowski, would you agree that delivering a secret message in the way that this president did as a former law enforcement officer who's probably investigated gangs and mob-like behavior, that this is consistent with that?
I take exception to your premise of the question that it was a secret message.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for introducing this hearing, which is now, as you said, under the new rules. You know, it's sort of the old school, the old rules of the new rules, the new rules of the old rules. These rules were here all along. And yet, here we go again. We're going to say that they're new because we like the packaging. I've never seen a majority so amazed with packaging in all my life. You know why? Because they can't sell what's inside. They can't sell the product. So they just keep packaging it differently. You know, I think we should call, I agree with my chairman, I think we should call this for what it is. It's just another simple override side hearing. In fact, no, I think it's actually become this. It has become, let's read the Muller report for audiobook. That's what we've become. We had Mr. Muller here. Had a long day of it. Judging by all accounts, it didn't go real well. For the purpose of what you've proclaimed for over 9 months and almost 2 years, that there's impeachable offenses, as my chairman has said, clearly in the Mueller report. But here's the problem. 17 of the members of the Judiciary Committee have said that they think the president ought to be impeached. So why are we still investigating it? 17, you get some more. The problem is you don't have the votes. You don't have the numbers. And even if you got it out of this committee, you don't have it on the floor. That's your problem. So the thing that we're going to do is we're going to drag this committee through oversight hearings, talking about things that have been talked about ad nauseum, ad nauseum, ad nauseum. We're going to talk about it. We're going to put filters up. We're going to say what it really is or really is not. While in all the things, we're going to try to imply that this president shouldn't be president. You know, it is really interesting to me that we just heard just a moment ago that it was said that these made-up rules at DOJ. Well, it's interesting that now they're made-up rules. They wasn't made-up rules when Obama administration used them. Were they made-up rules then? Just asking for a friend. You know, this is amazing. As we come into this situation, the chairman also said that while we're doing this and stopping committees from searching into products like the immigration issue and foreign influence, I just want to remind everybody here watching and everybody here to see the show today, and also to remind the majority that they have complete jurisdiction over immigration. We have complete and total jurisdiction over immigration for the most part. All we have to do is, if you want to fix the border, put a bill up. You don't want to do that. You like this. You like having the press here. You like the cameras. Because it makes it appear like something's happened that's not. But the real thing is coming out, the American people are starting to get it. They're starting to get it that if you're just howling at the wind, you're not doing anything. You're making them think you are, but you're not. So don't bring to me immigration anymore that you want to deal with it. You just want to bring administration officials in here and yell at them because what you don't like is happening. And I agree, we need to fix it. Bring us a bill, bring my bill, bring your bill, but do something about it. Quit talking about foreign influence. The only real thing we all agree on in the Mueller report was foreign influence from Russia, but yet, where's the bill? Where's the bill? Where's Waldo? Where's the bill? We don't do anything about it. We like to talk about it because we think it makes the president look bad. Because that's the implication we've been giving for 2 years. Unfortunately, we also don't really want information in this committee either. If we did, we'd work like the Intel Committee had done. You know, we've had that issue before. They'd have to actually work with witnesses to get them to come in. Mr. Lewandowski, I believe, said he'd come without a subpoena, but yet we subpoenaed him anyway. Because it looks, as I was told earlier this year, from the chairman's perspective, a subpoena is a start of a dialogue. Not according to Black's Law Dictionary, but who cares? We're just the Judiciary Committee. This is the problem we're having. This committee does not want to interview Don McGahn behind closed doors. They want him in front of everybody. They want to do this out front. They don't try to actually get information. That's what real oversight is. Real oversight is trying to get information. But we don't do that. I understand it's tough making a promise and not keeping it. I understand. All of us in this room can relate to a time when we made a promise and we couldn't keep it. My majority made a promise. We'll impeach him. We'll investigate him. For most of them, it happened in November 2016 because they couldn't believe that Donald Trump won. And they still can't get over it today. So what do? We have public hearings, lots of flashbulbs, embarrassing the president, not gathering facts, not investigating, not doing oversight. This is certainly not being fair. But we like to issue subpoenas. We're setting a world record at that. 40 times faster than the previous chairman. But we don't want any answers because we're not willing to engage in dialogue to get information from folks. And you know how I believe that this is more just wanting to get it here? Is because it's not like Mr. Lewandowski has had silence on this issue. He's testified before Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. He's testified before House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. And now he's also voluntarily testified for the special counsel, by the way, Mr. Muller. And we've had access to all of his summaries of his testimony. This is not new. But yet it is new because it's another time to rehash an old story. You know, this is the fall. This is when the ABC and NBC and all the broadcast folks, they bring out their new shows. This isn't the summer rerun season. We should get into something new. But I just want to show you one last thing before I turn it back over and, you know, we'll get the popcorn and the show going. The Judiciary Committee is the Judiciary Committee for a reason. It's because we oversee the court system. And for any person who has actually been here, and actually an attorney in this room who's actually appeared before a judge is pretty stickler for rules. And I just want to point out something. It may be trivial, and I know some will laugh and some won't care. But for some of us, it does matter. The subpoena today for Mr. Lewandowski and the others said 10 a.m. this morning. This just shows you how impulsive and poorly designed this entire sort of faux impeachment charade we're doing. The subpoena is not even properly. The subpoenas were here for all three to compel them at 10 o'clock this morning. But today's hearing's at 1, not 10. The witnesses lack appropriate notice for the hearing today. That's a simple, basic subpoena issue. But we're the Judiciary Committee. I can understand this, and no offense, natural resources, I can understand if they get it wrong. Or transportation. I don't understand how judiciary gets this wrong. The chairman wants to hold people in contempt for not showing up. Try to enforce this in court. Because there's no extra letter. There's no clarification of time. And when I was given a subpoena for my client to appear in court, what time do you appear in court? Whenever you feel like it? No, at the time it says. Unless the court or the officer giving the subpoena says differently. The Chairman's only option for success here is to issue, well, we can do this, I guess, because we've wasted enough time on other things. We reissue new subpoenas with a new date, new time, and hold a new hearing. There's probably a date somewhere in October we haven't filled up with this mess somewhere. So with this, here we go. Mr. Chairman, there's so much that we could actually do together. There's so much. But as long as we don't have time, we'll continue with rerun season. Popcorn still tastes good. I don't know why we do this, except maybe we just have maybe a deficiency of flashbulbs. I don't know. Because we just like the show. And the show is going to get even more as it goes today. Because the new rules are in effect. Oh wait, they're not new, they're just old, but we're applying them today because we want it to look better. And I have one more of those we'll talk about later when we get to some other questions later. With that, I yield back.
Questioning you right now. Thank you. The president asked you, who had no role at all in the White House, to deliver that message to Attorney General Sessions. The president could have just picked up the phone himself at any time and called the Attorney General. The president also had a full staff of executive employees right down the hall. So this made me wonder, if the president thought what he was doing was legal, why didn't he just pick up the phone and call the Attorney General Sessions, or why not ask any member of his staff who worked right down the hall to deliver a message? It is clear to me that the reason he went to you, Mr. Lewandowski, is because everyone said no. So I want to ask you about that. 2 days before meeting you, the president had called White House counsel McGahn at home on a Saturday to fire the special counsel, saying, and you can see that on the screen, Muller has to go. Call me back when you do it. Plain and simple. But McGahn refused. When the president asked you to deliver that message, did he, the president, tell you that 2 days before your meeting, his White House counsel had refused to fire the special counsel? Volume 1186 is where you find that language. Volume 2. When the president asked you, did you hear the question?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question,
When the
Congressman?
president asked you to deliver that message, did he, the president, tell you that 2 days before your meeting, his White House counsel had refused to fire the special counsel?
The White House has directed me that I not disclose the substance of any
So,
conversations with the
You are
president.
not
or his
allowed to
advisors.
answer whether the president told you he called his counsel at home on Saturday to remove the special counsel, and his counsel said no. The president had also personally called Sessions at home and asked him to unrecuse himself and oversee the special counsel's investigation, and Sessions said no. When the president asked you to deliver his message to Sessions, did the president tell you that Sessions had already said no? Volume 2, page 107?
Again, Congressman, I recognize that the privilege is not mine, but I've been asked by the White House to. Congressman, I'd be happy to answer your question, or you can just have a conversation by yourself. But if you'd like to ask me a question, I'll be happy to answer.
I'm going to continue. The reason is
Well, then don't ask me a question if you
I'm
don't want to hear my
reclaiming
answer.
my time. This is a House judiciary, not a House party.
So if you ask me a question, give me the opportunity to answer your question.
The very campaign the special counsel is investigating. I'd like my time restored, please, of his interruption. So he was a witness to the special counsel's investigation. For that reason, Sessions said publicly that federal law prohibited his involvement in the special counsel's investigation. Here's a quote from the report from Volume 2, pages 49 to 50, which is on the screen. You can read that. Yes or no? Did the president tell you that the Attorney General was legally not allowed to take any part in the special counsel's investigation when he asked you to deliver him a note about that very investigation? Did the president tell you that?
What you've just read is not on the screen, Congresswoman.
You need to look at the screen. Yes or no? Read the screen.
You're welcome to read it, Congresswoman.
You're welcome to be stalling, and I'm not going to stall. You either answer the question yes or no.
Congressman, I'll take the same privileges that you've had other members.
Tell you that nobody at the White House was supposed to even contact the Attorney General about the investigation? That you can answer yes or no.
I will not disclose any conversations I've had with the President, Congresswoman.
Again, you are obviously here to block any reasonable inquiry into the truth or not of this administration. The White House counsel, quote, shortly after Sessions announced his recusal, directed that Sessions should not be contacted about the special counsel investigation. In fact, the White House counsel's internal notes state no contact with Sessions and no communication serious about instruction. Can you read that? I just said it. Can you read that? Did you hear me?
Yes, is there a question?
Yes. Did the president tell you his White House counsel told him no contact with Sessions because of serious concerns of obstruction when he asked you to deliver a message to Sessions?
I am respecting the executive branch privilege of confidentiality, and I will recognize that this time.
Let me just say that did you know the president was putting you at risk when he asked you to deliver a message to the Attorney General? I want to be very clear. The president knew what he was doing was wrong because everyone else had already said no. He called his White House counsel to fire the special counsel. McGahn said no. He called the Attorney General to ask him to unrecuse himself from the special counsel's investigation. Sessions said no. His White House counsel said there should be no contact with Sessions because of his recusal. So what does the president do? He calls you in to do what everyone else wouldn't do. He calls you in to do his dirty work in secret because he knew it was wrong. Well, we will expose the truth. The president cannot hide behind you any longer. And you should be here to be telling the truth, Lewandowski, because the truth will set you free and the American people. I yield back.
I ask you a question, sir.
I'm looking for that reference on page 91, Congressman.
Do you not have an independent recollection?
No, I'm looking, Mr. Congressman, I'm trying to adhere to the White House's request. I answer questions that are provided in the Muller report only, so I'm trying to reference that report directly about your question, Congressman.
Were you a White House employee at that time?
No, Congressman.
And if, did you have, okay. You did not hold any position in the government whatsoever, did you?
Correct.
Now, sitting behind you are counsel for the White House, correct?
That's my understanding.
You understand those lawyers actually work for the president at the White House?
I believe that's accurate.
Nevertheless, the president's lawyers have told you not to answer any question by this committee other than what has already been disclosed in the special counsel's report. Is that correct?
Congressman, I have to read from the letter that the White House provided the committee if that would help clarify. Would you like me to do that, Congressman?
No, I'd like you to answer the question. Have you been directed?
Congressman, I've never spoken to any members of the White House counsel's office other than saying hello about 15 seconds ago.
But you were directed by letter.
Congressman, I was provided a letter that I believe this committee was assigned. It says, as explained below, Mr. Lewandowski's conversation with the President and with senior advisors to the President are protected from disclosure by long-settled principles protecting executive branch confidentiality interests, and as a result, the White House is directing Mr. Lewandowski not to provide information about such communications beyond the information provided in the portions of the report.
I'll take that as a yes. And the basis for their direction is a claim of executive privilege. Is that correct?
I can read it again, Congressman.
The answer is you're not answering the question. We've already established that you were never employed by the White House or the executive branch. That is correct.
I have never been employed by the executive branch.
Sir, did you ask the White House counsels to be here?
Congressman, as I just reiterated, I've never spoken to anyone in the White House counsel's
The
office.
answer is no. Was it your idea for you not to answer questions based on a claim of executive privilege?
I can reiterate, I didn't ask. I've never had a conversation with someone from the White House counsel's office
So
regarding
it
this
was not
matter.
your. So it was your idea not to answer?
I have never had a conversation with someone from the White House counsel's
Was
office
it your
regarding this
idea
matter.
not to answer these questions on the basis of executive privilege? Yes or no?
Congressman, I can only go by the letter that was provided. It was not my idea to provide this letter.
Not your idea. Did you ever suggest to the president or anyone else that you thought your communications with him were official White House communications?
Congressman, the White House has directed I not disclose the substance of any discussions with the President or his advisors to protect executive branch
Yes.
confidentiality. And I recognize this is not my privilege, but I am respecting the White House's decision.
Let me ask you some questions about your relationship with the president after he assumed office. How many times has the president asked you to meet him in the White House?
The White House has directed not to disclose the substance of
How
any
many
discussions.
times did you meet with the president alone in the White House in 2017?
I don't know the answer to that.
How many times did he direct you to deliver a message to a member of his cabinet?
The White House has directed not to disclose the substance of any discussions with the President.
Did he ever discuss with you any concerns that he may have committed a criminal offense?
The White House has directed not to disclose the substance of any discussions with the President or his advisors to protect executive branch confidentiality.
All right,
I recognize this is not my privilege.
Mr. Chairman, I make a point of order pursuant to Clause 2J, 2A of Rule 111, that the gentleman is out of order. He has exceeded the time limit under the 5-minute rule.
I will enforce the time limit under the 5-minute rule.
I challenge the ruling.
I am very-
I challenge the ruling of the chair.
The ruling of the chair is challenged. All those in favor of overriding the rule of the chair will say aye. Opposed, no?
No.
No.
Roll call.
Noes have it. Roll call is asked. The clerk will call. Where's the clerk?
We can make this a lot easier. We can. I mean, this.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Jackson Lee votes no. Mr. Cohen?
No.
Mr. Cicilline? Paul? Ms. Jayapal votes Stanton?
No.
Mr. Shabbat? Mr. Shabbat votes aye. Ms. Lesko? Mr. Chairman, there are 13 ayes and 19 noes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Mr. Chairman, since the chairman has
The
refused.
gentleman is not recognized.
I will.
The point of order is sustained.
Mr. Chairman.
I am very troubled that the White House counsel sitting behind you are preventing you from answering these very basic questions that go to the heart of the president's conduct we are
Mr.
investigating.
Chairman, I have a motion.
Mr.
Chairman, I have a motion.
You will wait for your motion till I finish this.
Point of order then.
Not only.
Point of
will you
order
not-
has got to be recognized.
Not in the middle of.
Yes, it does. The motion is to, since the chairman is not following the House rules, I move to adjourn.
Motion is to adjourn. A motion to.
Point of parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn.
Point of parliamentary,
Rule stated-
if the Republicans on this committee are successful in this motion to adjourn, does that mean there will be no hearing and the American people will not hear from Mr. Lewandowski about his efforts to obstruct justice?
Yes, that's exactly what it
Okay,
means.
that's what I want.
It also could read, they could read the 3 times the
Motion.
previous already done.
I have a point of parliamentary inquiry.
The motion is not debatable. As many as are in favor of the motion to adjourn.
I have a motion of parliamentary
As
inquiry.
many are in favor.
So Mr. Cicilline gets recognized for his
Motion
inquiry,
is
but I don't
not
get recognized for
debatable. As many as are in favor of the motion to adjourn say aye. Opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Roll call is requested. The question is on the motion to adjourn. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Nadler?
No.
Mr. Nadler votes, Mr. Buck? Votes aye. Mr. McCoy votes yes.
From answering these very basic questions, adopted. And I will finish what I was saying. I am very troubled that the White House counsel sitting behind you are preventing you from answering these very basic questions that go to the heart of the president's conduct we are investigating. Not only are you not a government employee, but these questions are about the president's efforts to interfere with a criminal investigation of himself and have nothing to do with official government business. This is clearly just part of the president's continued attempt to cover up his actions. He is obstructing our congressional investigation by preventing you from telling the American people the truth about his misconduct. He will not succeed, and we will not be deterred. Munoz back, the gentlelady from Washington.
Thank you. Mr. Lewandowski, what we're seeing here is a pattern of the president doing anything and everything to hide his misconduct from Congress and from the American people. The president tried to get you to deliver a secret message to the Attorney General, all in an attempt to prevent the special counsel from exposing the president's own misconduct. And as soon as the special counsel published his report and the president's misconduct was exposed, the president tried to cover that up too. Isn't it true that the president has repeatedly tried to discredit your and other witnesses' testimony to the special counsel in the published report?
Not to my knowledge.
You follow the president on Twitter, Mr. Lewandowski?
That's a good question.
Okay.
I'd have to check, but I think it's possible. I may be the only one who doesn't, but I'll fix that immediately. I'm sorry.
Excellent. You've probably seen his tweets, I imagine. Didn't the president say, and I'll put up the slide for you, statements are made about me by certain people in the crazy Muller report, in itself written by 18 angry Democrat Trump haters, which are fabricated and totally untrue. That is a Trump tweet from April 19th, 2019. That's the president saying that all the statements given by witnesses in the investigation, all those statements are untrue. Mr. Lewandowski, you were a witness in the investigation. You sat for interviews with the special counsel as part of the federal investigation. Is that correct?
I did sit, yes.
And the special counsel's report includes statements that you made to the special counsel during the federal investigation. Did you lie at any point to the special counsel during those interviews?
Not to the best of my recollection, no.
So your statements to the special counsel in the Mueller report, those are not, quote, fabricated and totally untrue. You didn't lie to the special counsel, did you, Mr. Lewandowski?
Not to the best of my recollection, no.
So the president is wrong that the report is fabricated and totally untrue. That's just the president trying to discredit all of the witnesses who said that he obstructed justice. Isn't that correct, Mr. Lewandowski?
That's a question for the president.
Well, which is it? I mean, did you lie, Mr. Lewandowski? Or is the president wrong when he says that all of the statements in the report are fabricated?
I think I believe it says certain people. Statements made about me by certain people. It doesn't say all, unless I'm misreading it.
Mr. Lewandowski, did you lie to the president? And is the president correct that everything in the report is fabricated?
I won't comment on private conversations, but I don't appreciate the insinuation that I lied about anything. And I've
Well,
answered
I'm
it multiple
asking you.
times.
I'm
I've answered your question multiple times about my truthfulness to the committee and the special counsel's
And I
office.
appreciate that, Mr. Lewandowski, but
I have not, to the best of my
President,
knowledge,
you should-
lied to the
Mr.
special counsel.
Lewandowski, this is my time. You are not yet in the Senate. You are a witness before the Judiciary Committee. Please act like it. This is my time. I control it. The president also said, and please put up this slide, watch out for the people that take so-called notes when the notes never existed until needed. Referring to the Muller report, referencing people taking notes of meetings with the president, notes that documented the president's obstruction. Mr. Lewandowski, you had notes from your meeting with the president. You've testified to that before us, correct?
Yes,
You were dictated those notes by the president, correct?
I believe that's in the report.
And you told the special counsel the president's dictated a message to you and you said, write this down. This is volume 290, page 91. And you gave those notes to the special counsel, correct?
I can't speak to the way the special counsel has conducted their investigation or what information they
Did you give
have.
the notes to the special counsel? This is not about how the special counsel conducted its investigation.
That's a
It's about
question
whether
for-
you gave the notes to the special counsel.
That's a question for Special Counsel Muller.
Those were your notes, Mr. Lewandowski. They were in your safe. They were dictated to you and written down by you. Did you give them to the special counsel?
I comply with all legal and lawful
Well,
requests of the
obviously,
special
you are
counsel.
once again obstructing our investigation by refusing to answer questions that...
I've just answered your question. I said comply with all requests by the special counsel.
So you gave the notes to the special counsel.
I've asked and answered your question.
Did you make up that the president told you to write down that note, Mr. Lewandowski?
I can't speak to private conversation I might not have had with the President of the United States.
Did you lie about the president telling you to write down the note?
I believe
It's not a private conversation.
I believe what is in the report is an accurate description.
Okay, so to be clear, you also gave the special counsel notes from your meeting with the president that are not fabricated and totally untrue as per the president's tweet. So when the president said all those notes never existed until needed, that was his quote, that's just another instance of the president trying to discredit anyone who actually tried to document his misconduct. Now the president is going further, isn't he? You've said previously that you have nothing to hide and that you would answer all questions. Here's what you said. Can I play that clip?
I never asked for presidential immunity whatsoever. Chris, I sat there for 12 hours, and before I left, after the last 4 hours, I said, I will sit here for another 4 hours to answer every single one of your questions to the House Intelligence Committee. I said, before we leave today, I want to be very clear. I will sit and answer every one of your questions. There's no reason to subpoena me because I'm willing to volunteer. If they want to ask me questions, I'll be happy to answer their questions because I have nothing to hide.
It's interesting, Mr. Lewandowski, because obviously the president does have something to hide because the White House is directing you not to answer the questions in front of the Judiciary Committee. And that is a tremendously shameful thing, Mr. Lewandowski. The American people deserve to know the truth, and I think they deserve to have you answer our questions.
Time of the... And I want to ask you questions relevant to that issue. Mr. Lewandowski, is it correct that as reported in the Mueller report on June 19, 2017, you met alone in the Oval Office with the President? I said,
Is there a book and page number you can reference me to, please? I don't have a copy of the report in front of me.
Volume 2, page 90. But I simply ask you, is it correct that as reported in the Mueller report on June 19, 2017, you met alone in the Oval Office with the President?
Could you read the exact language of the report, sir? I don't have it available to me.
I don't think I need to do that, and I have limited time. Did you meet alone with the President that date?
Congressman, I'd like you to refresh my memory by providing a copy of the report so I can follow along.
Hey, you don't have a copy with you?
I don't have a copy of the report, Congressman.
Mr. Chairman, I request that the clock be stopped while this
I just asked-
charade is sorted out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Congressman, what page was it?
The clock should have been stopped and should remain stopped. Page 90, volume 2.
Okay, which paragraph, sir?
I don't have it in front of me.
I'd like a reference, sir, so I can follow along on what they're asking.
Do you not have an independent recollection of whether you met with the president on that date?
Congressman, I'm just trying to find in the Mueller report where it states that.
Well, you have it in front of you. I gave you the page number.
Okay, where on page 90 is it, sir?
Mr. Chairman, you gotta start the clock.
No, I don't have to start the clock, but he's filibustering. Bottom of page 90.
Filibustering is a different
Bottom of
issue. That's
page-
across the hall in the
bottom of
Senate.
page-
This is actual questions being done now.
Mr. Chairman, point of parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
That's not,
The gentleman will state his point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Chairman, is it appropriate for a witness to refuse to answer a question and instead demand that we reference and point him to, I'd ask that that Mueller report be closed and the witness be directed to answer the question.
Well, the answer is not appropriate, but it's on the bottom 2 lines of that page.
Point of order, when will the clock start, Mr. Chairman?
once the question's asked, Mr. Chairman, the clock should start.
Right under overview, 2nd line.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman, the
Point
witness,
of order.
the witness has the time and will
Point of
answer.
order is,
Question, the
point
witness
of
will
order
answer the
overrides
question.
that. A point of order overrides that, Mr. Chairman, and you know that.
The gentleman will state his point of order.
Point of order is once the question has been asked and referenced properly to the witness to answer the question, the clock should start. It cannot be held while you and your counsel go over notes.
The gentleman is correct, the clock will start.